Yeah, hi guys, good morning. And in today's session, we'll discuss about load balancers. Okay, so let me share my screen first. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we have one service called Elastic Load Balancer. Guys, go on mute. Someone is ELB, right? So ELB basically Elastic Load Balancer. So what is the load? What is the purpose of this load balancer? In name itself, we can see. Load balancer means number of users who are trying to access our application. This will be helping us to redirect or map with our servers. Okay, for example, elastic load balancer. Okay, and then what we have our subnets, right? One subnet and two subnets. So why are we using two different subnets? Whether it is public or private, as of now, ignore that part. Okay, but why are we using multiple subnets?
So that the
That is
public
the
is
user.
able to access any subnet which is available currently.
No. Why are we deploying our application in multiple subnets? C2.
For easy networking.
To manage the traffic.
In order to manage the traffic, we can also use a single subnet and we can install all our EC2s, right? But why specifically subnets? Yeah, someone said that, right? Okay, basically for high availability means if something goes wrong with the subnet, for example, the subnet is not available. I mean, the subnet is in one region and subnet 2 is in another region, right? So if something is wrong with that region, something is wrong in the sense if there is some natural disaster, for example, like we have earthquakes or there is heavy rain, and because of the rain, the data centers have been shut down. In that case, what will happen? We'll have one more region where our application is running. So for highly availability of our application, we will use multiple regions. In one region, one subnet, in another region, another subnet. Okay. So these are the end users. End users are nothing but customers who are trying to access our application. So where is our application configured? It is in this EC2. So our application name is, for example, app. So what I have did, I have provisioned 5 EC2s and I have deployed Apache Tomcat, and in that Apache Tomcat I have deployed my application called app. Okay, so our application is deployed in 5 EC2 instances. So now what will happen? For example, if this user, this is the end customer, this can be any user. So if this user wants to access our application, what he can do? This public IP, for example, this IP is 192.168.0.0, and this EC2 IP is 192.168.0.1, and then this is 0.3, and this is 0.4, 0.5. Okay, so we have 5 servers. In 5 servers, we have deployed our application, and there are 5 IP addresses related to these EC2 instances where our application is deployed. So now, if suppose we want to host our application, so what we'll do? For example, if this end customer wants to access our application, so we are going to provide the IP address to him, right? So what he will do, he will open the browser 192.168. For example, 192.168.0.0 and hit enter. So what will happen? It will redirect the request to the specific instance, means this EC2. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So for example, if I am trying to access 192.168.0.1, so what will happen? That request will be redirected to this particular EC2. So, but what is happening is, for same application we are having 5 different IP addresses. So no client wants to have multiple IP addresses. So their requirement will be, they need only one IP address. 192.168.0.0, 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5. Okay, so 5 different IPs for our application. So now, for example, if out of 100 users, 50 users have got this IP address, I mean 0.0. So what will happen? All the users are trying to access this server only. If there is heavy load on the server, what will happen? If there is a high load on the servers,
Will crash.
yeah, server will be very slow, or it will crash. It will not respond as expected. Guys, 1 second. 1 second, yes. Yeah, sorry guys. So what will happen if there is heavy load on a same server? So what will happen? There will be slowness in the server might get crash, and it will respond very slowly, right? So and also having 5 IP addresses or 5 different IPs for the same application is not something what anyone wants, right? So in that case, we need to have a mechanism which will help us to access our applications with single IP or single DNS name. So that's where we have load balancer. So what will happen? This elastic load balancer, the user will try to hit the elastic load balancer, and elastic load balancer service will help us to distribute the load to 5 different users. 5 different EC2 instances. It is not caring about the IP addresses. We are not worried about the IP addresses. So what we are worried about the balancing algorithms. Okay, so how this is redirecting. This is the same thing what we have learned in the initial client server architecture as well, right? So now what is happening? Only one DNS name. DNS name is nothing but domain name.
Domain name server.
Server or service. Server, I guess. Okay. So this DNS will be accessed in the browser. For example, applv.com something. Okay. This is some XYZ domain name. So the moment I will hit this, so what will happen? It will redirect the request to this particular load balancer, and load balancer is responsible to check how many instances are there on which particular server the request should be redirected. So it will help us to balance our load. Even if 100 or 1000 users are trying to access, then they will be using the same DNS, and load balancer will responsible to balance all the load on our servers, whether we have 5 servers, whether we have 10 servers, whether we have 100 servers in the background. Understood?
So Sabir, Elastic Load Balancer also have its own IP address, right?
No,
What
it
would
will
that
not
be?
have the IP address, it will have the DNS name. IP address is available only for network load balancer.
All right, because I was going through some process and I wrote that NS lookup and Elastic Load Balancer. I gave AWS.com ARN, then it gave me the IP address of the load balancer also.
See, that is something which has been configured in the background by AWS, but
Okay.
you cannot access that IP address. Even for example, NS lookup fb.com. So what will happen? See, this is one IP address. Okay, for example, now I'm trying to hit this IP address. The next lookup 157.240.192.35. Okay, so this is nothing but the host name of your load balancer. See, to this host name, this IP address has been assigned. Okay.
All right.
So we
So
can either
here,
access this.
so if you are using load balancer, so we don't need to allow elastic IP.
Elastic IP is not only available for one load balancer, that is network load balancer.
Okay.
Okay, no need to, I mean, for classic and application load balancer, there is no concept of elastic IPs. We'll discuss about that. Okay, don't worry. So for example, we have got, this is one DNS name of the load balancer related to Facebook. So I'm trying to hit this on browser. So what is happening? It is redirecting to the domain name only, facebook.com. So what is happening? This DNS name is again configured in the route 53. We have learned about route 53, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yes.
Route
Yes.
53. So what is happening? The user will try to access facebook.com, for example, facebook.com, and facebook.com is mapped with the load balancer DNS, and from there the traffic will be redirected. Understood?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Others? So now, so on what conditions this load balancer is redirecting? On what conditions this load balancer is trying to redirect the request? For example, we have 5 different servers, right? For example, this server is not available. Sorry. So this EC2 is not available. So what will happen? Will load balancer send the request to this? Something happened or someone has terminated this, or this is not available. The health checks are getting failed. Okay, this EC2 is deleted. Now we have only 4 servers. So who is going to manage this? Our load balancer is going to manage all these operations. How? How it is working in the background? What it is checking? So we have a concept called, so what load balancer will do? Load balancer will check for every frequent time, means for every 1 minute or 2 minutes or 3 minutes, depends upon our configuration. So it will go to this server and it will check for the health check, whether that is alive or not. If the EC2 is alive, then only the request will be redirected. If this EC2 is not alive, then the health checks will get failed and this will not send the request. Means any users who are trying to access our application will not be redirected to this particular EC2. It will be sent only to these 4 servers which are up and running and healthy. Understood? So it will always check for the health check. If health checks are passed, then only the traffic will be redirected, or else it will ignore the EC2. For example, this EC2 is also shut down. Then what will happen? Load balancer will check the health checks and then it will mark this as not healthy, and then it will send the traffic to only these 3 instances. For example, after 10 minutes of time, this instance is again back up and running. Now what will happen? Again, the load balancer will mark it as healthy and the traffic will be redirected. So that's how load balancer will check in the background. For example, we have configured auto scaling, and in auto scaling, our number of instances has been increased to 7 instances. So what will happen? 2 new EC2s are being launched. Okay, so health checks, again, this will be mapped to our load balancer. Okay, so doesn't matter how many servers are available, how many has been shut down, or how many has been created, but load balancer will manage everything for us. Only thing is we need to make sure of the health checks. Understood?
So on what condition will it
Yes, sir.
decide that it's healthy or not healthy?
So that depends upon the path what we are trying to pass. For example, you are trying to specify that health check condition is forward slash www.html slash index.html. So what will happen in this particular EC2? Okay, in this particular EC2, it will go to this particular location and it will check if that index.html file is available or not. If it is available, then it means that it is healthy. If it is not available or unable to connect to the server, it means that it is not healthy. That's it. So we can pass any path. So for example, we pass at forward slash. Forward slash is nothing but root. So it will try to connect to this particular location. Okay.
All right, sir.
Guys, clear with load balancer. This is very important. This will be asked in every interview.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Yes.
So now in elastic load balancer is a service which is available, but again here we have four different type of load balancer. One is classic load balancer, one is application load balancer, one is network load balancer, one is gateway load balancer. Okay, so we have four different type of load balancers are available in ELB. This is what this will be asked in interviews. How many type of load balancers are available? We can say as four type of load balancers. One is classic, application, network, and gateway. So now the next question will be which load balancer you guys were using. So which load balancer we have been using as part of example? Application load balancer. Application load balancer is something what we are using. Now there might be some difference, right? So there will be, this is also one of the basic question. What is the difference between app load balancer at app LB and network LB? App LB means application, net LB means network load balancer. Okay. So what is the difference between these two? This is very important. And when should we use which load balancer? What should be the use case or scenario on using these load balancers? Okay, so if you have four load balancer means there might be some difference in these load balancers, right? So let us just go to the console and see what is available. Let me log in. So this is my Mumbai region. So let me go to the service ELB, elastic load balancer. Here we have something called load balancer. So let me click this. Okay, so if I click on create load balancer, here we can see only three load balancers: application load balancer, network load balancer, gateway load balancer, and one more called classic. See, four different load balancers are available in Mumbai region. For example, let me go to Paris region. In Paris also gateway is available, classic is available, application is available. Okay, let me go to Stockholm. The gateway is nowadays available in all the regions. So earlier what was happening was gateway load balancer was not available in all the regions. It was available in specific regions only. So that's the reason we have, we haven't used gateway load balancer. Okay. So as of now, we can see gateway load balancer is available in all the regions. Earlier, it was available to specific regions only, like North Virginia. Okay. So now let us first discuss about these three. Let me remove this. Okay. So classic, application, and network. So what is the example for classic and how to create classic load balancer? So let me just go to North Virginia region. We have classic. Okay, and here if you see, these are the different protocols which classic load balancer will be using: HTTP, HTTPS, TCP, and SSL. This will be asked, guys. Protocols: HTTP, HTTPS, TCP, and SSL. So what are the port numbers for HTTP? What is the port number for HTTP and TCP?
HTTP it is, I think.
Okay, HTTPS. HTTPS port number is
443.
Guys, you need to remember all the port numbers. These are very basic protocols what we are going to use in our day-to-day work. Okay, so HTTP is nothing but 80. HTTPS means this is secure, that is 443. TCP is again on 80, and SSL will work on 443. Okay, secure in the sense it will use 443. Okay, so our application, our classic load balancer will work on the protocols called HTTP, HTTPS, TCP, and SSL. Means we can configure 4 different protocols for our load balancer. For the listening, means any user who is trying to access our load balancer or our application, right? So our load balancer will work on any protocol. We can configure any protocol. So now, what is the use case when we can use classic load balancer? Let me remove this first. Okay, so we have our, one second guys. Yeah, so we have our classic load balancer. We have 2 subnets. One is public subnet 1, and this is in region AZ1. Okay, and then we have one more subnet. This is also public subnet 2, and this is AZ2. Okay, so we have 2 subnets and one classic load balancer what we have configured. And now here I have one EC2 instance, and here we'll have one more EC2, and again one more EC2. Okay, so how many instances do we have? We have 3 instances, right? One in one subnet and one in 2 subnets. So user is trying to access our application. Okay, classic load balancer. And then load balancer will redirect the request. For the first time, it will be redirected to this subnet, and second time it will be redirected to the instances which are in the subnet 2. So now here what is happening? Our load balancer is not checking for how many instances are available, but it is trying to send the traffic to 2 different subnets, means 2 different availability zones. For example, 100 users are trying to access our application. Then what is happening? 50 users are being redirected to this subnet, and 50 users are redirected to this subnet. So now do we see any problem here?
Yes.
No.
If yes, how? If no, why?
Subnet one has only one EC2 instance, whereas subnet has two EC2 instance. If 50 in 50 are going, 25, 25, the 50 is going to only one.
Yeah. So what is happening here? For example, 100% of, I mean 50% traffic is redirecting here, but here we have only one ACT instances. Means end of the day, if 100 more servers are 100 more users are trying to access, then what will happen? There will be lot of burden in one EC2, and these EC2s, I mean these two EC2s are trying to manage. I mean they have multiple instances, right? So here on one EC2 there is lot of traffic. So if you want to use classic load balancer, then we should have equal number of instances in both the subnets. I mean in both the regions. Whenever I'm trying to refer to subnets, I mean different availability zones. Okay, so if we have equal number of EC2s in both the availability zones, then only we can use classic load balancer. If we have one EC2 and 5 EC2s in another subnet, then it is not something which will help us to manage our application. So end of the day, what will happen? This EC2 will get break. There will be very slow response from this EC2 because there is lot of load comparing to these two EC2 instances. Okay, understood? What is the difference in classic load balancer?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So basically, it's dividing the balance for the load for the according to the subnet availability.
Yeah, based upon the availability zone, whatever we have configured. If we have equal number of instances, then yeah, we can go with the classic load balancer. This is how it is working. So now let us see. Okay, so I'm in North Virginia. So this is my classic load balancer. Let me click on create. And also here you can see the documentation. Always try to read the documentation, guys. Always try to read the documentation. See the listeners in your load balancer review. This is request, healthy instances. You can register or deregister. That is something what we are going to discuss now. Okay. So load balancer name, for example, classic load balancer. Okay, so we have two type of load balancer: internet facing and internal. Internet facing means this is something which is public. Internal means within the subnets itself, that is private. For internal load balancing we can use them. Okay, so internet facing, and I will be using my default VPC only. So I will be using one subnet, that is public subnet. Okay, so let me use two different subnets, that is 1A and 1B. 1A and 1B. Okay, so I have used two subnets for the deployment of my load balancer. So where are we going to deploy this load balancer? Load balancer should be always in public subnet if you want to expose this to outside world. Okay, this subnet should be public. If it is private, then it will not work. I mean, no use of creating the load balancer. Okay, so security groups. So this is the default security group, and here we can configure which listener you want. So how many protocols it will follow? It will follow HTTP, HTTPS, TCP, and SSL. Okay, so it will follow 4 different protocols. So I'm using HTTP as of now. If you want to use HTTPS, then you need to configure your SSL certificate as well. So how to get the SSL certificate, or how to create the SSL certificate?
You have to go through the cloud front. And
CloudFront is a different service, guys. If you
Acha,
want to create
ACM,
SSL,
right?
we need to
Amazon
search to
Certificate
ACM.
Manager.
Yeah, so no need to create CloudFront and all. Okay, so as of now I will be using HTTP, that is AT, and this is my instance protocol, means on which instance we are going to map, which protocol is working, and what is the port number of that instance, I mean that application what we are going to deploy. So in my case it is AT. Okay, so let me scroll down.
Sabar, can you once again say the difference between the listener and the instance?
This is something related to your load balancer listener. For example, if this is the DNS, We have got one DNS, right? So this is the DNS of my load balancer, for example. Then colon 80. So this is something called as listener port to the load balancer. Okay. And the instance port number is where our application is deployed, means this EC2, on this EC2, whether we have deployed Tomcat, whether we have deployed Apache or Nginx, on which port number the application is exposed. And this is something to the load balancer listener. Okay.
Understood.
So now what I will do, let me scroll down, and then we have something called health check. So what should be the ping path? I mean, it should check on the port number HTTP. The ping port should be 80. I means on port number 80, it should go and it should check for the file called index.html. If this file is available, then it might consider that our health check is passed. If you are unable to ping on port number HTTP, protocol HTTP port number 80 and to this particular file or location, then it will fail the health check. Okay, so based upon this, it is going to pass the health checks and it will make sure that the traffic is being routed to the healthy instances only. Okay.
So we can configure the path also, ping path. We can
You
do
can
it yourself.
configure whatever path you have for your application.
Right.
Okay, and then we have advanced health checks. So if you scroll down, here we have how many seconds it should wait for the health checks to respond. I mean, this is a kind of timing what we can pass. So what it will do, load balancer will come to this EC2 for every 2 seconds or 3 seconds, and it will check for the health checks. Okay. And then unhealthy means how many times it should come and check if it is healthy or not. For example, if 2 times it has been no response, then it will consider as unhealthy. Okay. And for how many seconds it should check for the health checks. We are setting the intervals. And if it is 10 times healthy, then it will consider as healthy. Okay, so these are the different settings what we can configure. And then it is asking to add instance. So as of now, we don't have any instances, right? So let me ignore this, scroll down, and then we have enable cross zone load balancer. So what do you mean by cross zone load balancer? Cross zone load
Different
balancing,
regions.
yeah, different availability zones, not regions, different availability zones are available, then we can enable the cross zone load balancing. Okay, so enable cross zone load balancing, and then enable connection training. Means what will happen? What is connection training? For example, if the instance is not healthy, then it will deregister itself, right? So if the instance is not healthy, what will happen? It will mark as not healthy. Okay, so whenever we are trying to deregister that instance, we have the specific time period of 300 seconds. Means if some request has been traveled, then it will wait for 300 seconds to send the response back and then deregister itself. So that's how we are going to configure. And then scroll down, you can check everything whatever we have configured, and then click on create load balancer. So we have got our load balancer which has been created, but here if you see this 0 of 0 instances in service, means no instances are being attached to the load balancer. We have created load balancer, but no instances have been attached. So now let us create 2 instances. Okay, so if I scroll down here, we can see health checks. If we have any health checks, see http://index.html. If you want to edit, then we can also edit this. Okay, target instances, this is where it will try to, we can add new instances or we can delete the existing instances. What are the different targets to our load balancer? Which instances the traffic should be redirected? So we can configure that in the target instances. And then in terms of security, we have the security group rules. This is nothing but our firewalls. Okay, so let me duplicate this page, go to EC2, let me try to launch one instance. Okay, this will be my server 01, Amazon Linux to image. Okay, and then T2 microwave is the type. Key pair, let me use for server. Okay, and this is the VPC what I have used for my load balancer as well. So subnet I will be using US East 1 because I have used two subnets, right? US East 1A and 1B. So I am deploying one instance is 1A. Existing security group, I am using the same security group, that is default one. Okay, and let me add one script as well. If I scroll down, okay, and then echo server 01. Let me add one message. Welcome to server 01. What is the deployment location for HTTPD?
www html index.html.
www HTML.
Index.html.
Okay, and then let me try to start the service. Start HTTPD. Right. So I'm trying to install HTTPD and then add one file called welcome to server 01 on this particular location, and then trying to start my service. Click on launch instance. So let me just copy this as well. It will take some time to launch one server for us. Meantime, let me launch one more instance. This will be server 02. Okay, and then type, and this is my key pair, and here this time I am using different subnet, means different availability zone. Earlier 1A, now 1B. Okay, because our load balancer is deployed in both the locations. Existing security group, default, advanced details. Okay, this time I am trying to configure as server 02 as my welcome message. The only reason why I am trying to configure different messages for us to identify whether our load balancer is working or not. But when it comes to any project, all the applications will be same. There will be no difference in the applications. Okay. So only for our understanding whether it is working or not, I am trying to add multiple different messages for each server. Okay. So let me click on launch instance. So what we have did, we have created two servers in two different availability zones. So now let me try to access server 01. It is up and running, right? So let me access and test whether it is working or not. See, welcome to 01, right? So this is working. So this is listening on which port number? Port number 80, right? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
And it is trying to access the files from index.html. So this is nothing but our ping path. :80/index.html. So our load balancer, it will come to this particular location, URL, port number, and then this location. So this location is available. So what will happen? It will considered as healthy. If this location is not available, then it will considered as unhealthy. Understood how it is checking now?
Yes, understood.
Yes.
So
Yes.
similarly, let me try to access server 02. So always try to test manually and then try to attach. Without testing, do not directly attach. See, now this is also working as expected. So now let me go to my load balancer, go to target instances, manage instances. Okay, server 01, server 02, and click on save changes. So how many instances are there here? If you see this, 0 of 2 instances in service, means it is taking some time to make the status as healthy. See, 2 instances has been attached. So if you want to check the status, go to target instances and then you can see the health status, what is happening. Here you can see different instance state is in register in still in progress, means this is trying to check for the health check and it will try to make the status as healthy. If I'll refresh this, see now in service, means both have been marked as healthy because the health checks, it went over there and it found this file was available and it has been marked as healthy. Okay, now if I'll scroll up, you can see two of two instances in service, means there were two instances and both the instances are healthy. Now I want to access my load balancer. I mean, I want to access my application. So what I will do, here we have the DNS name. There is no IP address. If you see here, do we find any IP address? No, right? So DNS name, copy on, hit and browser. So what will happen? It will go to the request, I mean to the EC2, see server 01. Now if I am trying to refresh this again, this time server 02. If I'll refresh again, server 01. If I'll refresh again, server 02. So which algorithm is it is following? So what is happening in the background? So it will follow, these load balancers will follow kind of round robin algorithm. Okay, so this will follow round robin algorithm. Yeah.
Here we have one welcome message different, so here we can find out what the load balancer is working. The welcome message is
Your voice is not clear. Your voice is not clear. What is it?
Hello.
Shiva. Shiva?
Sir, his question is nothing but we are given like two messages, welcome to server 1 and server 2, so that such that we can understand there are two instances which are working.
Yes,
If we give
yes.
the same name, how can we find?
See, if you have given the same name, for example, this is only for testing purpose for us to understand. Okay, so for example, let me connect. Let me modify the message. Okay, so sudo su root user. Okay, cd var www.html vi index.html. So let me modify this message to welcome 0 server 01. Okay, so both the applications are same now, right? So if I'm trying to access this, refresh. So are you able to understand what is happening? No, right? But see, this is something what end user is not aware of. Means as a customer or as a end user, I will not be worried about the load balancer, what is happening in the background. But if you want to check the status, you will be seeing the status from these metrics, see, two of two instances are in service, and based upon the health checks, I mean target instances, whether they are in service or not. So this is how we can identify. Apart from this, we don't have any other way, right? So even if you
Is it
refresh this,
possible to identify through the IP address, because the IP address will be different for the basic instances?
no. So for example, if I'm using this, here what is happening? See, two IP addresses to the load balancer. See, IP address and all, how you are able to see? Can you see any IP address over here?
No.
No, right? Then it is very difficult for you to understand. Unless and until you need to check for the health checks and the target instances which has been registered. From here only you can identify whether they are healthy or not. And if you want to access, then you can access this on the browser, DNS of the load balancer. Okay.
So for every refresh, there would be a change in DNS. This is what you're saying, right?
Why DNS will get changed?
Server instances will be same.
Instances will be same.
Means
Load
the
balancer, what it
traffic
is assuming?
right
It is
directly.
assuming that there is new access and it is redirecting the load to another instance.
Right.
Okay. When we have seen this, okay, so this is our facebook.com load balancer, right? So even if 1000 users try to access this load balancer, everyone will get the same static page because this is what their end application is. It will not showing as server 01, server 01, server 02. This is something I have configured only for explanation. I mean only for the understanding purpose. That's it. But end of the project, so if you are using this in the project, then we'll have the same applications deployed in all the EC2 instances. There will be no change. Okay. Guys, clear? So for example, if you have HTTPS, if I'll hit HTTPS, it will not work. Why? Because we haven't used any HTTPS. We have used only HTTP as our listener. So we can configure any listener and any one protocol for classic load balancer. See, listeners. So we have configured HTTP, that is 80, and if you click on manage listeners, it is asking us to create one more listener. This time 81 or 80. So we can have different listeners as well. Okay. And apart from this, for example, this is my server 02, right? So let me delete this rm-rf index.html. So I have deleted this index.html which was available in server 02, means this is not healthy now. See, so this is checking for the default page, right? So let us see what is happening. So our index.html has been deleted. So let me go to my load balancer. Let me go to the health checks. If I'll refresh this, if I'll open this and refresh this, see one of two instances in service. So what happened? Out of service. Why? Because the health checks has been failed. Because there is no index.html page here. So the moment the index.html is failed, the health check got failed. The index.html has been deleted, the health check got failed, and now we can see only one instance is in service. Means all the load is been redirected to only one instance, to this DNS server 01 only. Even if I refresh, it will be the same page. So this is how we can create classic load balancer. We can create one listener and we can define different target groups on which EC2s the request should be redirected. Guys, clear?
Yes.
Yes, clear.
Yes.
Okay. So we have monitoring as well. I mean our CloudWatch, where we can see the number of requests which are being added to our load balancer. See, 12 requests. Okay, so we can create different different dashboards for our load balancer request as well. And 5xx means 500 errors and then 400 errors. So what are the different dashboards we have worked on? So we have worked on 400 errors, 500 errors, and response timeout errors. So this is what we need to talk in interviews as well. Okay. So we have one page called error code in the notebook. I mean in interview Q&A. So try to read that error codes as well. Based upon that error code, we can understand what is happening.
Sir, is there any limit for requests, sir, users?
Any?
We can add number of users, means user requests are there, na sir, in that.
In load balancer?
Yes, sir. Just now you told.
No. We cannot define how many users should access this load balancer because you are not aware of the end user, right? So end customer, who is the end customer? It can be anyone. If it is, for example, a kind of social media platform, so anyone across the globe can access our application. So you
That's
cannot
what
define
sir
how many
means.
targets.
Can we give number of users or no need to give? By default, it will
No.
take number of users.
How many users can access? That depends. I mean, that depends upon your number of instances which are attached to the load balancer and the
Okay.
type of instance. For example, if we are using EC2 micro, sorry, T2 micro, and 1,000 users are trying to access, will it support
No, sir.
them? So that depends upon, I mean, what will happen is, for example, if our application has been down, so what they will do, there will be something called capacity planning. In capacity planning, we will decide along with the architects and with the development team, with the operations team, what instance should be used, how many users we are expecting. There will be having an idea how many users will be trying to access our application. Based upon that, they will configure the EC2s. And apart from that, we have auto scalings, right? So auto scalings, why
Yes,
do
sir.
we use? If the CPU utilization more than 70%, then it will automatically scale up. So auto
Yes.
scaling will be configured below the load balancer. And auto scaling will help us to create new instances for us. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So classic load balancer works on which protocols? HTTP, HTTPS, TCP, and SSL. These are the 4 different type of load protocols what classic will support. And classic can be used when we have equal number of instances in both the availability zones. Okay. Then we have something called application load balancer. So what is the use of application load balancer? On which protocols this will work? Protocol HTTP and HTTPS. Okay, so this will work on protocol HTTP and HTTPS. Okay, so let us go to application now. Let me delete this classic first. Let me delete this classic. Okay, let me click on create load balancer, and then we have application load balancer here, HTTP and HTTPS. It will support multiple protocols. Okay, so let me click on create. Name can be app load balancer. Okay, internet facing IPv4, and this is my VPC, and then I want to create in 2 different availability zones, that is 1A and 1B. Okay, security group can be default, and here we can see same listener port is 80, but here we have different option called forward to the specific target group. Okay, here it is asking for the target group. So let us discuss about this, but before this we need to understand how it will be working. Here if you see this, see here what is happening is, for example, if you talk about classic, if we have one more application, okay, if you have one more application and you want to load balancer that application, so what we need to do in classic, we need to create one more classic load balancer and we need to attach our instances, right? We need to create one more load balancer and we need to attach our instances. But whereas in application load balancer, this will help us to create multiple listeners. Means our load balancer can listen on port number 80 and port number 81, or different multiple listeners will be supported. So what is happening? For example, this is my app load balancer, and then we have different rules can be created. Okay, and then we can have different listeners. So we can have rule and listener. And then we'll have our target groups. For example, this target group name of this target group is images, and in this target group we have multiple EC2s. Okay, and in this listener we have one more target group called docs, and here we have one EC2. Okay, and then we have one more target group called, for example, info. Okay, here we have one more EC2. So what is happening now? If you see this, application load balancer is working on the protocols called HTTP and HTTPS. Okay, so this is first thing, and then we can configure multiple listeners to application load balancer, and then we have something called rules in application load balancer. So what this rule will do, this will decide to which particular target group the traffic should be redirected. So here how many target groups are there?
3 target groups are there.
One is images, one is docs, one is info. Okay, so here it doesn't matter how many instances are there inside this target group. So what will happen, for example, a user is trying to access the application. For example, this is my DNS. lb.com port number 80/images. So if the user is trying to access this particular URL, so what will happen? The request, it will reach to the load balancer and it will come to this listener, this rule, because listener here it is port number 80, and here we have listener as port number 90, for example, two different listeners. So it will come to port number 80 and then it will check for the rule. Rule is nothing but path prefix. This one /images. So in rules we'll configure as images. So what will happen? It will redirect the request to this particular target group, and in this target group how many instances are there will responsible to reply back. Okay, for example, now the user has tried to access our application again, dns-app-lb.com /90/tocs. Where this traffic will be redirected? It will come to the load balancer, and from load balancer it will go to the listener, and here we have configured the rule to document. So it will redirect it to this particular target group. Means in each target group we can have different, we can have multiple instances. For example, if he is trying to access DNS app lb.com $90/info. So where this request will be redirected? This request will be redirected from this rule to this particular info. So the target is being decided by the rules where this request should be redirected. Okay, so we'll use the load balancer DNS and the listener, and from here we configure different listeners with different set of targets or rules. So load balancer is working based upon rules, based upon listeners, and we configure different target groups. Understood? For example, if the user is trying to access dns-app-lb.com :80 or dns-app-lb.com :90. So where should this request be redirected? So if he is not specifying any path prefix, so this is nothing but, guys, path prefix. This is the rule what we are trying to configure. Means any request with the specific images as the keyword, then it should be redirected to the this target group. This is how I am going to specify in my load balancer. So if we have 10 target groups, but still it will redirect the request to the images target group only based upon the rule what we have configured. Okay, for example, user doesn't, user have not passed any path prefix, only is trying to access the DNS name and then port number. So where this request will be redirected now?
To the default path.
Yeah,
The listener 80.
listener 80. Okay, if he is trying to access listener 80, then listener 80. But from listener 80, where?
Means they have to give
Means
path.
there should be at least one default path created. Okay, without default path, it will not allow us to create. If you see this, okay, here if I scroll down, here it is asking us to create some default action. Means without these default target groups, it will not allow us to create the load balancer. Understood?
Means we have to
Yes, sir.
give all path.
Sorry.
Means we have to give all path.
So we can provide any default path to the load balancer where the request should go if the user is not trying to access any path prefixes.
Just
Okay.
like homepage.
Yeah, home page kind of thing. So now here if you see this, we have two different applications attached to one load balancer. One is working on 80 and one is working on 90. Means if we have 5 different applications, then we can use the same load balancer and we can add different listeners, different rule numbers and manage the traffic. No need to create 5 load balancers. But whereas in classic, if we have 5 applications in our project, then we should create 5 load balancers to manage the traffic. So that's the advantage of application load balancer. Clear?
Sabir, in this app
Yes,
load
sir.
balancer, mostly it's giving the direction towards the listener, right? So how it be able to balance? For example, on the images, we got 100 users, right? If it crosses 100.
So what will happen is if we have 100 instances in images, so what will happen? So the load balancer, again, it will distribute based upon round robin algorithm. One target to the this EC2, another request to this EC2. So this is how it will manage in the background. But initially, based upon the rule, it will redirect all the traffic to the images. Here, how many instances are there that will be managing the traffic.
All right. So it's acting.
Yeah.
So it's a load balancer. In here, in addition, it's giving the specific routes to the listener also.
Yeah. So it is not redirecting to the specific availability zone now. Based upon the rule, it will go to the target group. In the target groups, we have our EC2s. How many EC2s are there? That depends upon our requirement. Okay. But load balancer will help us with defining the rules, listeners, health checks, and everything for us. Okay. Now, let me create one target group. Create a target group. Okay. So instances. Target group name, for example, I am creating one target group name called images. Okay, which port number? HTTP, and port number is 80, right? So images, as per this diagram, let me design. Okay, port number 80 and images and VPC, that is the default VPC. I'm using the protocol version HTTP one only. Health check. So what should be your health check? HTTPD index.html. Will this work now? So what I can do is I will just ignore as /root only. It will work for us. Okay. So let me scroll down, click on next, and then it is asking what should be your instance target. So in this case, server 01 is my instance target. Include as pending below and click on create target group. So now what is happening? See, one target group. Here if I scroll down, load balancers. Load balancer is not yet created, right? So we have one target group, that name is images, and in that one target group, one instance is available. So if I select this, here you can see the targets. See, one targets are being assigned to the images, and it is unused, means it is still not used by anyone. Okay, and here if you see this, we have the load balancer details. Okay, click on load balancers. Let me refresh this. No load balancers, right? So let me create one load balancer now. Application load balancer, create upload balancer, and then ES1A and 1B. So where are our instances? In 1A and 1B. That's the reason I'm using 1A and 1B. If you have your instances in 1C, 1D, then you can select this as well. Okay. So in my case, only 1A and 1B are hosting my instances. Is not targeted groups images. So all the default request which is reaching on port number 80 will be redirected to the images target. Scroll down and then click on create load balancer. See, now we have created one load balancer. Okay, now if I'll again go to the target groups and check the targets, if I refresh this, you see it is in initial progressing, means it is trying to connect with our load balancer. Now we have mapped with our load balancer, right? So let us wait. Okay, it will take a couple of minutes and then it will try to assign, because it is still in provisioning only. Okay, so understood. I have created one basic load balancer and I have configured the default target group. I haven't added any rules yet. I have created one basic target group only. Guys, let me know if you have any questions. Yes.
So if we in future if we launch a new instance in 1C, so can we edit the load balancer?
No, once deployed, I don't think so. We can edit. Let me just check that option if it is possible. I don't think so. We can manage this. Yeah, it is available, guys. So we can add 1C as well. Okay.
Okay.
So I have configured the default route as of now. Only default will be working for us. We haven't created any rules yet. It is taking a lot of time. See, this is active now. And if I'll go to target groups, then what is the target? This is also healthy. So now load balancer DNS, let me copy and hit on browser. Port number is 80. If I hit enter, so what is happening? It is going and getting the Apache dot page. See, this is the default page which is been accessible. Okay, now my requirement is to something like this images, means this is nothing but my path prefix, means I want to access my application from the particular images. So default page we have configured, means any request who is trying to access on this DNS should be redirected to the welcome to server 01 page. This is working. Now I want to add one rule that this should redirect the request based upon rule. If someone is trying to access based upon images, this one, sorry, someone is trying to access based upon this one images, so this should work for us. Okay, so as of now, if you see this :80/images, hit enter. This is not working because there is no URL found. So let me try to create this, but before creating, where is our target? So this is my target, right? EC2. This is my target. My target is server 01. Let me just connect to this target, because if I'll access this on browser, right, :80/images, even here it is not working. So first I need to make this work. I mean, I need to create one deployment in the /images directory. Then only we can try to map with our load balancer. Okay. So let me connect. Sudo so clear cd var www html. Okay, inside this HTML, I will create one more directory called images, cd images, ls touch index.html. I'm trying to create one file. Let me directly add the message. Okay. Welcome to images. And now if I'm trying to access this, see, welcome to images accessible means this is working on path prefixes. There is some application configured on the server level as well. So now what I will do, I'll go to my load balancer, go to my listeners, we'll scroll down. Okay, here we have all the rules whatever we have configured. See on same, this should also work on port number 80 only, right? So I will not be adding any new listeners. So I will click on rule and then actions, and here I will click on add rule. Okay, so here you can see. 1 second, guys. Okay, so let me click on the default one. Click here. What is happening? Or else this is my target group. Okay, so default rule. Click here, edit rule. Click on edit rules. Okay, and then I will try to redirect this. Lot of interface has been changed. Okay, let me come back. Okay, so this is my load balancer. Let me go to this rule, click on rule, actions, or else let me click on add rule. Okay, rule name will be, for example, images. Next, now we need to add the condition, means on what condition it should redirect. So add condition, it will be path based conditions. Okay, /images star. Okay, with the path prefix called /images star, then anything should be redirected. Okay, confirm. Next, forward to which target group? Again the same target group, images. Scroll down and click on next. Prioritize, you can leave gaps. Okay, this is something similar to our rule numbers in our what we have our NACLs. Okay, so click on next. Let me give as 1. Next, create. So now what we have did, we have created one rule to our load balancer that any request with the port number 80/images should be redirected to this instance. Means we have only one instance. In one instance we have two applications. One is default index.html, one is welcome to images, right? So let us see what is happening. Okay, now if I'll try to access, this is my load balancer and this is my condition. Hit enter. Welcome to images. So what is happening now? Any user who is trying to access with the help of this path prefix is redirecting to the different application, and without this path prefix it is redirecting to the default home page. Means we have one load balancer, one listener, different rules for different applications. So this is how you can configure your load balancer for different applications. Understood? Now if you want, what we can do, we can create one more listener on port number 90 and create one target group called docs and one target group called info, launch 2 instances, deploy some sample applications and try to redirect them as well. And it should be listening on port number 90, means no need to create different load balancers. Just add listeners and configure your rule and everything will be done by the load balancer itself. Understood?
Yes. Yes.
So we need to, I mean, there are few important points for application load balancer. One is it works on protocol HTTP and HTTPS. This is what we need to talk in interviews, guys. This will be asked for sure. Okay. So application load balancer works on layer 7, that is application layer of OSI model. You need to answer this line as well. Application load balancer works on layer 7, that is application layer of OSI model. So now what is OSI? So let me open one screenshot for you. OSI model images. See, OSI full form is Open Systems Interconnection. So if I'll open this image, here you can see, means any application which is been created or deployed, right? So it will have 7 different layers. The first layer is the human interaction layer. Okay, so application layer is working on layer number 7, that is application layer. That's the reason it is named as application load balancer. Understood now? This layer will help us with the protocols HTTP and HTTPS. And if you see this diagram, can you help me out with the network load balancer? On which layer network load balancer will work?
Third layer.
No. Layer number 4, TCP and UDP. If you'll open this, okay. So let me write these details as well. Okay. Protocol works on TCP and UDP protocol. Okay. So let me copy this. Network load balancer works on layer 4, that is which layer? Session layer. Sorry, transport layer. Layer 5 was session. Transport layer of OSI model. If you'll see this, it is working on TCP and UDP protocols. Okay, so we have differences like HTTP and HTTPS protocols. It works on application layer, that is application layer of OSI, and we can configure different rules from listeners, and it will work based on path prefix, right? So it is working based upon the path prefix only, right? So we can configure different rules, different listeners, and it will work based on path prefix. Same line will be applied to network load balancer as well. Network load balancer will also work based upon rules, based upon listeners, based upon path prefixes. The difference is the protocols. Okay, apart from that, in network load balancer we can configure one elastic IP, which is not available in application load balancer. If you see this load balancer, there is no option to configure elastic IP. Do we have any options here? we can access only based upon the DNS name. Here we can see area code. You can configure this DNS to your route 53. So in network load balancer, we can configure one elastic IP, which is not possible in application layer. So this is the difference between both. This is asked in interviews for sure. Difference between application and network. So what will be our answer?
So the call and the
Network
elastic
load
IP
balancer
subnet.
has elastic
Not the, see, we need to define all these three lines. Application load balancer works on HTTP and HTTPS. It works on application layer, that is layer number 7. It will work based upon different rules, listeners, and path prefix. Network load balancer works on TCP and UDP, and it will works on layer 7. And we can configure different rules, listeners, and path prefix. And we can also configure elastic IP. So this is how we need to answer. Do not just go with this single difference. No, talk about protocols, talk about layers, talk about IPs as well. Okay, so try to configure network load balancer. Okay, so try to configure this on your own. Try to export this network load balancer as part of the task. Now, so when should we use application load balancer and when should we use network load balancer? Okay, we have understood that network, how it is working, application how it is working, but when should we use them? We are aware of
traffic hitting of our application.
traffic, yeah, accessing our application, and our application is working on HTTP and HTTPS protocols, then we can use
Application load balancer.
application load balancer. Means if we are aware that okay, 1000 users are going to use my application, in this case we can use application load balancer. And even our application, whatever application we are trying to deploy, it is accessing HTTP and HTTPS protocols, then we can use this. Okay, and when should I use network load balancer?
If we are not sure of the traffic hitting of our application.
Apart from that, if
we are expecting sudden spikes in traffic, then network
yes.
load balancer.
Yes, right. If you are expecting sudden spikes in traffic, then network load balancer is something which will help us to manage the traffic and application will be accessible to end users. Means, for example, if you are expecting sudden spikes, what do you mean by sudden spikes?
Number of users increasing.
For example, nowadays, for example, we have Hotstar, right? So if you see World Cup is going on, there will be around 3 crores or 2 crores of people who are watching that Hotstar, right? So managing 2 crores of people. But if you'll open Hotstar now, the number of users will be very low. Only it is a peak time, means at a particular match timing only we can see a lot of users are trying to access the application. So in that time, what will happen? Application load balancer will not able to manage such kind of sudden spike. For example, if you are using Amazon, in Amazon we have our Amazon sale is going on, right? So there are a lot of users who are trying to access the application. This is not the stable traffic. Some users will only access if there is a huge sale on the products. In that cases, network load balancer will help us to easily manage our traffic. Application load balancer will not help us. I mean, it will get break because this is working on the network layer, that is TCP and UDP protocols. And also, if suppose we have YouTube, right? So if YouTube can be YouTube will be using which type of load balancer, whether it is application or network load balancer, or Hotstar is using which load balancer? Network.
Hotstar is a network load balancer.
Why? Apart from number of users, do we have any other reason? Because live streaming applications means we are watching Netflix, Prime, Hotstar, YouTube, right? So these are some live streaming applications. So network load balancer will easily manage that. I mean, the protocols what we are trying to use, TCP and UDP, these are the protocols which will be used for the live streaming applications. The traffic will be managed at the network layer only, on the layer 7, that is transport layer. Okay, so we have for live streaming applications or for video streaming applications, they will be using TCP and UDP protocols. For our websites, regular websites and all, they might be using HTTP and HTTPS protocols. Now, what is the difference between TCP and UDP? UDP is faster than TDP. UDP protocol will work more faster than TCP in terms of transferring the data. But TCP is very secure and reliable, means the data which is being transmitted will be stable. But whereas in UDP it is fast, but there might be a lot of data which might be missing. So there are a lot of things if you want to explore in the background. So try to check for TCP and UDP difference. Okay, and this is the use case what we need to talk in the interviews as well. Why, when to use which load balancer. So we should check the conditions of the protocols and the number of users who are trying to access our application. And if he is referring to any video live streaming application, for example, the interviewer is saying that we have one application which is streaming the videos live. Which load balancer should we use? At that point of time, go with network load balancer. Because for live streaming, we'll use TCP and UDP protocols only. Okay, clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
And then we have something called, okay, so we have something called load balancer access logs. You can go to edit. Okay, so we have something called access logs. So what is the use of access log? So what will happen is with the help of access log, we can get the complete detailed monitoring of our requests which are been trying to access our load balancers. Okay, if I'll enable access log, we'll get the complete detailed information who is trying to access our application. I mean, who is trying to access our load balancer. Everything will be stored with the help of access log. So this is also very important for us to monitoring purposes, means in terms of security. So what's one such kind of use case was VPC flow logs, that is helping us to monitor our VPC traffic. Access log will help us to monitor our request made to the load balancer. So enable the access log as well. So how to enable these access logs? Select this and then we need to pass our S3 bucket. So do we have any S3 bucket created? So let me try to use this. Let me go to S3. Create bucket. For example, access log 0509. So let me use this bucket name. This will be North Virginia region. ACLs enable. Okay, I'm using the basic details. Okay, and then scroll down and click on create bucket. So I have created one bucket with the name called access log 0509. Okay. So now I want all the logs to be stored in my S3 bucket. Now let me again go to the load balancer. Where is my load balancer? Okay. So let me go to browse S3, and if I select this, choose, let us see what is happening.
It won't go,
Access
it will ask
denied.
for the permission.
Yeah. So it will asking for the permission, means we need to have one IAM role. So what is the use of role? Role will help us to add some permissions to communicate from one service to another service. So in this case, which service? From load balancer to S3 service we want to communicate. So let me create one role first. I mean one policy. So where is my S3? So this is my S3. Let me open this. Permissions. Click on edit. Okay. So access logs to, always go for the official documentation, guys. You'll find lot of references from here itself. Okay, and then if I'll scroll down, then we have grant permissions. Why it is no? Load balancer access logs to S3. Yeah, here we can see this. If I'll open this, there is my permission policy. August 22. This is North Virginia, right? So I can use this. So let me copy this permission, and here I need to change the ELB account ID. So where is my load balancer configured? In North Virginia, right? So let me copy this ELB account ID. This is ELB account ID, guys, not our account ID. So let me copy this, paste, and then it is asking to push the resource as my S3 ARN. So let me delete this, and if I scroll down here, we have my S3 ARN references. So I don't have any prefix. So let me copy this, paste. So what is my bucket name? My bucket name is access logs 0409. Let me cross check. So this is my bucket name. Let me copy. Okay, and then AWS account ID. So let me remove this and paste the account ID. So this is my account ID. And let me copy this policy now. Paste and click on. This is how the policy will looks like, guys. And then click on save changes. So we have created the policy successfully. Now let me go to my load balancer again. Let me remove this, browse, and then create one, choose, save changes. So now we can see some request or some data will be stored in our S3. Okay, so let me try to access my load balancer. So I'm just trying to hit something. Okay, and then slash images as well, so that it should write some data. I'm trying to access something called slash docs, which is not available, so it should not access, right? So this should be failed. If I'll refresh, okay. So let us see if our S3 got some objects or not. Okay, so if I'll refresh this, we can see something called AWS logs. If I'll open this, we have account ID, and then we have some test file. This is only for testing purposes what they have pushed. So we'll wait for a couple of minutes, and then we'll try to access this. Okay, and then we can get the detailed information what happened to our request, whether it has been reached to our load balancer or not. Based upon that request only, we can identify what was happening. If our load balancer is not running or not responding, then we can understand based upon these logs. Clear?
Can we see that which user can use that?
No, usernames and all it will not display. IP address from which IP it is trying to get the request.
Yeah, it's open.
Okay, we'll wait for a couple of minutes, then we can see this. Okay. So good, not yet done. Guys, do you have any questions for now? Do not hurry to execute all the tasks. First, try to watch the video, write down notes, and then start working. And try to test at every point. Means after creating EC2, after installing HTTP, try to test it on browser. What I have seen is you guys are trying to complete in one single shot and then trying to debug it. So that will not possible. Let us see this test file, how it is being printed. If I download this, this is just a simple. This is just for the verification purpose what they have sent. Okay. Till then, let me try to delete my load balances and all. And then we'll test it and we'll wind up our session. Okay, so let me delete this. Always try to terminate your instances once completed with your task. Do not keep them, okay, or else you will see up, I mean, you will end up seeing unwanted billings. Okay, so delete. Not yet loaded, guys. I think it will take some time to push the logs. We'll see. Okay, so meantime, anyhow, you guys are going to implement this, right? So try to wait for 5 to 10 minutes and see what will happen. Okay, if you have any questions, then let me know on this. Try to implement network load balancer. I haven't shown network load balancer, but the process is same for application and network. There is no difference. I will be sharing the set of tasks. Try to implement them. Okay. Guys, do you have any questions, or we are good with today's session? Okay, let me stop this recording.